Hello and welcome. This is Becca from Willow Hill Designs. Today we are just actually getting over a crazy winter storm. Lots of snow and ice and high winds. Thankfully our power didn't go off. So it's nice weather for stitching, and today I'm sharing where I am with the Roxy's Journal of Stitchery Still Life project. And I thought I would, it's not completed, but I thought I would show my progress so far. I'll give a little close-up here. On this bouquet, it's not done, but I thought I'd give a little progress. This flower has been worked on, and this one, and this one, and this. And these little star flowers have been done. And these also, these little ivory flowers. And I'm starting to put some French knots in these little teeny tiny ivory flowers up here. I love them. So that's some pink silk I'm using there. And I thought I would share some of the things that I pulled from my stash to give some texture to all of this. First of all, I'm using some wools to go with this project. I'm using the ivory wool, and I've used this. This is a Persian type wool for needlepoint or crewel. I've had this for a long time, and I use this color quite a bit on here. It's a nice soft color, I think. And there's some other wools in here as well. I may use some of this color on that flower. So there's wools being used here. I pulled from my stash and had to put things in different containers. I'm using lots of pearl cotton on this. The pearl cotton is easy to use. And this is mostly either 12 weight or 8 weight. Nothing larger than that. So these are just some different colors that I've pulled. I used this coral on one of the flowers, and this deeper rose pink. I'll be using some of this and this. So that's kind of a nice selection to have. And I also had to pull some 50 weight threads and some silk, just where I was doing some invisible stitching with things being stitched down, because to leave pins in all of this would have just been, I actually did have lots of pins and everything was getting caught. So I had to invisible stitch, and I used some glue in some places just to tack things down like an applique glue, so that I could get stitching without getting caught on all the pins. I also pulled some DMC floss to use in some places. I may use this color on this, some of these on this flower here, this kind of a peachy, orangey flower. So these are the DMC flosses, and I used this particular deep red here for the shadows or the deeper parts of this flower. And I'm also using some ribbons on this. I may use some ribbons on the leaves, and I did use some ribbon here on the flower here, and it's just where you come up and you go down, and then you, as you're going down, you pierce the ribbon. So say this was your ribbon, you came up and then you brought it across and you're going down, you just lay your ribbon flat and pierce that end and go down, and it makes a little tiny bit of a curl. I'm not sure if you can see that here. Just to add a little bit of texture to this flower. And here I'm adding some French seam binding that's been crinkled, and that is this. So I'm using some of this to give sort of a ruffly edge to that flower, and I think, oops, I think what I'll do is maybe add some more ivory up here in this flower. And I'm also using this crinkle binding, and I'm putting this in the center of these star flowers. And all I did there was just tie a little knot in this crinkle binding. Just tie a little knot and kind of adjust it till it's the size that I'd like. And then just tuck the edges under, cut it, and tuck the edges under so that there's something kind of like this. And I'm stitching that to the centers of these white star flowers to also tie in this color here. So I'm using some of that. And I also have these little tiny little ribbon flowers. And I just took one of these and I just kind of folded it a little bit in half. If I can show that. Just folded it a little bit, kind of almost in half. And I stitched that on this flower here, just to give that center a little bit of dimension here. I'm trying to add some texture and dimension to all of the flowers. And some of the other threads that I'm using are these silks that I found serendipitously for free at that quilt shop that's quilting my quilts. My friend from England actually just sent me this a couple of weeks ago with some candy, delicious candy in it. Such a pretty tin. And so I put those silks that I got for free in there. One of the people that commented on my last video had said to me not to put the silks. I had wrapped the silks around this cardstock card, and she said not to do that because it would dry them out and could make them brittle. And I'm not even sure if that's acid-free cardstock. So I took them off of those cards, and I just can take, they seem to stay together nicely enough. I can just take them out and take pieces off as I want. So I used some of this color and some of this coral color in here, and I may use some of these darker greens. I used some of this aqua silk here, the two colors, the lighter and the darker, for some French knots. That was the color that was printed on the fabric, so I kind of went with that. So there's also silks. I pulled out all kinds of materials when I'm working on this. I'm surrounded by everything. And I also put some lace on here. There's some lace that to make this kind of look like a little scalloped edge on this flower. And also up here, let's see where that lace is. Here it is. I just took some little pieces of this lace, and I just stitched some up here, just to kind of, again, give a little bit more texture and interest to the flower. Let's see, I think that's all of the materials that I'm using on there. And each flower, each piece has kind of a combination of materials in it. This one, for this flower, I outlined it with a pearl cotton, and then I went around it, wrapped that outline stitch or stem stitch with a lighter color, just to kind of give a little sort of a ruffly edge there, a little frilly edge, like sometimes you'll see on petunias and things. This is the gold silk and some pearl cotton French knots. This is that pretty colored wool, and I did use this a lot. And this is 3-ply. You can separate it down into 1-ply. There's 3 plies in this, which is kind of nice because you can do a little bit this would be chunky if you left it all together. It would be hard to get it through the fabric, I think, because there are several layers here, flowers overlapping. And then, of course, these are the knots that I just made out of the seam binding. These white flowers are a V-stitch, and I just came up at one point, came up at A, went down at B, let the fabric be, or the thread be loose, sort of like a loop, and then I came up at C and tacked it down, so it made sort of a V-stitch. Then I came in successively doing shorter ones here. So that's how the little star flowers were stitched. Maybe you can see it better here. They were ivory, and I thought the white just needed to pop a little bit. They're such a pretty little flower. So they were easy enough. And then these flowers here are done with pearl cotton ivory, and those are just like a satin stitch in different lengths going around. And I will put some French knots in the centers of these flowers. So these were all worked. This first one was done in wool, and I just didn't care for it. It didn't seem to show up as well. So then I went through and I did a size 8 pearl cotton, and that was just murder to pull the needle through. So I eventually went down to a 12. So these kind of changed gradually as I went along. So these make me think more of a fleabane daisy, and I'm not quite sure about these, but that was just too hard to stitch. I thought, I don't want to get a pliers to have to pull thread through. I mean, that's not even enjoyable stitching anymore. That's no fun at that point. So the 12 seemed to work okay. Over here, again, an outline stitch, and wrapped it with a lighter color. This was wool outline stitch, and wrapped it with a pearl cotton. And this is silk, this lighter color, and then some wool in here. And here I had cut some little pieces of fabric. See if I can find them in here. Trying to keep everything. There's just so much to this project. It's crazy. I had cut some little pieces of fabric and just put some fusible lightweight interfacing on the back and put those for the centers on the roses. I thought that was kind of interesting. I put some French knots in the center. I don't know if I'm crazy about the French knots, if I should have just left it or not, but anyway, that's what was done there. There was some fabric added to these. Let's see, this little guy got that flower folded over in half. This one, I didn't stitch in here. I left that just blank, and it was kind of a peachy color that blended in with everything, so I just took my white Derwent watercolor pencil and just brightened that up a bit. And I went around this edge with the outlined or stem stitch, and then I just did some random little V stitches, just like little V's around the edge of that, just to kind of give it some interest. This is the silk in that light pink, and then this light blue is silk. This is silk as well, kind of that corally color. This is silk. And these are silk, the lighter aqua and the darker aqua French knots in there. I'm doing some French knots on these little tiny ivory flowers, which I love. So I'm just doing some pink French knots in the centers of those. Again, trying to add texture to all of this. And then this flower, again, done with an outline stitch. And then this is the silk. This is silk, and this is pearl cotton, this almost a rose-colored pink pearl cotton. And this is a white pearl cotton. I've just had better luck with the size 12. And I think that's it as far as all the flowers. And I think I explained this. I just tied a knot, tucked the edges under, and then I took a very fine needle and just came up and tacked that down, leaving it to have a little bit of dimension to it. So I kind of like the way that looks. I think it sort of speaks to the flowers in here, so there'll be more of those on here. And I also have some of these little flowers that I may scatter about as well. These are also a little ribbon flower. Oh, there's more. There's more of those in here. Oh gosh, there's just lots. There's lots of stuff here. Let's see. So I may scatter some of these around. I was thinking, you know, they may show up in here as well. I'm not sure. I'll have to see. I don't want to overdo it, but so I don't know. I may add some of those in here. Those little ribbon flowers, those are so cute. Ooh, come on, get back in your bag. Let's see, and I'm not going to do anything on the berries. I'm just going to leave the berries. I think I would ruin them. They're so pretty as they are, so I think I'll just leave the berries. And I'm not sure if I shared last time or not, but of course I did ask add the doily. I asked, and the overwhelming response was to do the doily. So I do like it, and I also added these little beads. Not sure if I shared that. And those are just some very matte colored, kind of a clay bead with a little bit of modeling, not a shiny bead, and I like that, in kind of keeping with a sort of a rustic theme here. So I added the beads, and just a few more things that I would like to add. Of course, I shared that I'd like to add this cover at some point, depending on what we have coming next. And I would also like to add these books, which I think if I put them here, I think I'll be safe if I do that. And let's see, I also have a couple of flowers that I would like to add that maybe have fallen off of the bouquet that I would like to add down here at the bottom. And of course my little bird, I want to tuck him in somewhere so that he's a partner with this little bird up here. So who knows where he will end up. But those are just some of the little things that I'd like to add. So this flower is still a work in progress. I think this pink I think is just not working for me here. So I may take that out and put something a little bit softer in there. Maybe something that'll tie in with this ivory. So we'll have to see. That flower is a work in progress. But so that's, oh, let me see. I think I can zoom out and just show. Let me move this out of the way. So this is what it looks like as a whole. So that, oh, sorry for bumping the camera. So this is where it stands. I'll try to, I don't know if there's a glare in my plexiglass for my sewing machine. So this is where it stands right now. And thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I'm wishing you many blessings. Bye for now.